With the loss of Blackwater, the Lannister forces now bolstered by the Reach felt untouchable. Tywin now governed as Hand of the King for Joffrey. Cersei would begin to feel her power lessen, though, as the Tyrells made quick work to establish power, as Margaery was named the new bride of the king. Kevan Lannister would begin solidifying the control of the Crown Lands with the aid of Mace Tyrell. Their combined army splitting into legions of 3,000 to lay control of castles and cut off the Stormlands by creating a massive military encampment on the edge of the King's Wood. With the Reach and Crown Lands seizing control, pacts would be made with the Crown and its loyal servants, such as Littlefinger being gifted in marriage to Lysa Arryn, the sister of Catelyn Stark, bringing the Vale into the fold. Even though the wise gesture of Tyrion before his attempted assassination would make an alliance with Dorne, betrothing Marcella to the Dornish prince Tristan. The Greyjoy Rebellion proved to be fruitful for the Lannisters as they openly waged war against the North. Yet not all hope would be lost for the alliance of the Stag and Wolf. In the North, Robb Stark solidifies his power and control. First, Robb sends for Theon to bring Bran and Rickon to the twins. There, Robb betroths the two Stark boys to the youngest daughters of Walder Frey, as well as Ramsay to one of his daughters after being legitimized by Robb, with lastly Edmure marrying Rosalind Frey. As for Theon, he takes the wildling servant Osha as his lady after the two bond on the journey. With Freys married into House Tully, Bolton, and Stark, a great wedding ceremony is held. Then publicly, in front of his fellow lords, Robb allows Lord Karstark to enact his vengeance and behead Jaime Lannister. This act would send ripples throughout the realm. The message would be clear. The lords of Westeros are not safe. The Lannisters are not safe. The false King Joffrey isn't safe. Winter is coming, and it's coming for them all. Their shield and leverage of Sansa as a hostage would not save them. Even Roose Bolton's campaign in the Westerlands would match the cruelty and savagery of the Mountains' raids, leaving a number of flayed Westerland officers in their wake. As for Lady Catelyn, she would be sent to the Vale to treat with her sister and Littlefinger. With the lords of the North and Riverlands united, they would begin their counteroffensive upon the Greyjoys. In the south, Edric Storm would lead border skirmishes against the army of the Reach near the King's Wood. Having been betrayed by the Reach twice, in their attempts to gain power, the Stormlords, now led by Edric, would have stronger ties to Stannis, who would not abandon them. Speaking of Stannis, the one true king having lost at Blackwater, he would spend a number of days in solitude. The lords would begin to worry if he would come out, and that possibly if he had gone mad. Yet Jon knew it was the way of Stannis to do so. Jon would spend the week following Blackwater, keeping a tight control on the lords and troops, holding everyone together. As for Stannis, he only ever saw Princess Shireen for that week, or that of Lady Melisandre. Then finally, after 8 days, Stannis showed himself once more. Yet something had changed in Stannis. He looked almost 10 years older, as his hair had begun to gray, and his face had a full beard. Yet his body seemed more toned and muscular than before. Something had changed in him in this week. Stannis would then claim that in his week of solitude, he looked into the flames and saw who his true enemies were and how to deal with them. Balon Greyjoy, Mace Tyrell, Tywin Lannister, Joffrey Baratheon. Each one would suffer the Lord's wrath in the coming days, and within a fortnight they would each fall, for he has tasked Lady Melisandre to rid the realm of these lords. Jon would question if Stannis was all right, to which Stannis would inform him that they would now speak about very important matters in private. The two would sit in the council room, and Jon would once more check on Stannis, who would remark that the magic of the Red Lady was taxing, but it was needed to help end the war sooner. Stannis would then hand Jon a letter. It was from the Night's Watch. Apparently an army of wildlings numbering in the tens of thousands marched towards the wall. The largest wildling army ever seen. Jon would ask what he planned to do, which Stannis would claim that to earn the right to rule the realm, he will save it. He would take the remainder of his fleet and his current fighting force and head to the wall to aid the Night's Watch. Jon would question if he means to abandon Dragonstone, to which Stannis would answer that Dragonstone would remain defended by Adrian Celtigar and his token army, with Montfort Valerian tasked with continuing raids on the Lannister trading vessels. As for Stannis, he would take his remaining 3,000 men and head to the wall. Coming with him would be Melisandre, Queen Selyse, and Princess Shireen. Jon questioned what his task would be, then, since it seems as though everyone had a task to complete. Stannis would inform Jon to unite Stannis and Robb together. It would be his choice as his reward. He would head north to aid Robb, or go to the wall with him, or even if he so chooses, could go to either Dorne or the Vale to try to win them over. Jon would answer where he goes, Jon shall follow him. Stannis would love the answer and tell him to prepare. Just before leaving, though, Jon would ask Stannis if he would tell him of his parents and who they were. He felt he had earned an answer now. Stannis agreed and placed his hand on Jon's shoulder. You are the bastard child of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. Before Jon could react, Stannis continued. Your mother died giving birth to you. Your father was killed at the Battle of the Trident. By all accounts, you are a Stark and a Targaryen, but a bastard nonetheless. Truth be told, Jon, by legality, Jon was the first Blackfire to walk the Seven Kingdoms in decades. Jon took the news in strides as he struggled to process the information, but after some time would finally respond with a slight jest. Should I be waving a dragon banner now? Stannis would smirk at this and respond, It doesn't matter what banner you fly, as long as it swears fealty to him. Jon would smile and bow before leaving. With the following days passing, Stannis' claims of the turning tides would come to pass. First, there was Balon Greyjoy, who would be usurped and killed by his brother Euron, who would take the bulk of the Iron Fleet and sail south. Victarion Greyjoy and his army would be stranded on the shores of the north near Castle Flint. Southward, in the middle of the night, Mace Tyrell would be met by a shadow with the face of Stannis and killed in front of his guards and fellow lords. The ensuing chaos would cause panic with a number of lords scattering them, hoping for each one not to be the next one killed. On the day of his wedding, Joffrey Baratheon would be poisoned. With no witness to account for who might have done it, the Lannisters would struggle to prove who it was, and instead use some servants as scapegoats, claiming they worked for Stannis. Not knowing that the true culprits were the Tyrells themselves, wishing to save Margaery from Joffrey's madness. Over the coming days, another domino would fall. Using the chaos of the loss of Joffrey and the turmoil that followed, Stannis had sent into King's Landing his true agents. Tyrion Lannister, who had survived an assassination attempt by Cersei, would tell Stannis of the castle pathways, and Stannis would send in his assassin. Tywin, while sitting on the toilet, feeling as though he had been poisoned as well, will come face to face with a viper. Oberyn Martell had come to avenge his sister and her children. He would fire a crossbow into Tywin, killing him, finally leaving a small statue of a snake in the room to mark his kill. 4 leaders, 4 lords, 4 targets, each taken out by the Lord of Light. In the north, the Battle of the Beach would take place. Victarion, unable to leave the mainland, would rally his men, some 4,000 strong Ironborn, with their backs to the sea. Robb and his army would divide into 3 contingents, the first being the left flank led by Lord Karstark, the second on the right by Lord Umber, the final in the center led by Theon and Robb. They would loose volley after volley of arrows upon the Ironborn. Finally, when the time was right, the 3 regiments charged. The ensuing battle would go back and forth for nearly an hour as the Ironborn fought with great savagery. In the battle itself, Robb would slay the famed Ironborn Cleftjaw. As for Victarion, he would slay Lord Karstark, Howland Reed, and Mage Mormont before finally being killed by the great Jon Umber in single combat. Theon would defeat and capture Yara Greyjoy, deciding that it would be beneficial for Robb to take her as a captive. The battle was one-sided, but the Ironborn were still able to take a number of northern High Lords in the battle that day. In the south, the combined army of Roose and the Blackfish would unfortunately be driven back to Riverrun, as the Mountain would take charge of a large force and drive them out of the Crown Lands, by the order of Kevan Lannister. The Mountain himself would slay Ramsay Bolton, as well as Edmure Tully in the Battle of the Dairy. With the bulk of their forces defeated, the Blackfish and Roose would choose to take a defensive stance and hold the line until either Robb or Stannis could join their forces. The ever-changing chessboard that was the Game of Thrones would continue on. And that is going to wrap up episode 3 of this ongoing series of What If Jon Snow Was Raised by Stannis. As you can tell, with the idea of Roose Bolton staying loyal to Robb after being named Warden of the North, with Robb being named the Crown Prince, there wouldn't be any Red Wedding because Roose Bolton's on the side of Robb. As well as the Freys, while they don't have direct line to the royal line, they do have now direct lines into the Tullys, especially now that Edmure is dead. They have a direct line to the Starks, and they also have a direct line to the Boltons, especially with Ramsay dead as well. And so I think with those factors playing a huge part, the Red Wedding would never happen. And with Theon never betraying Robb, I do believe he would be able to get Bran and Rickon to safety. Now, that does change a lot of stuff for the events of the Wall and Beyond the Wall, which we will be getting to in the next episode for sure. But yeah. And then I like the idea of, with Tyrion knowing that his family tried to kill him, and not being able to be reconvinced by Tywin that he is safe, he would be more than willing to betray the Lannisters, essentially, because his only tie, being Jaime, is dead. Joffrey and Cersei, as far as he is aware, has tried to kill him. Tywin has no love for him, and Tommen's just a little boy, and Myrcella's in Dorne, safe. So I think he would be okay. And with Oberyn, I think if given the chance to either kill the Mountain or Tywin, he would leap on that. And so with Tywin being the obvious first choice, I like the idea of Tyrion being the one to sneak Tywin in, much like how Tywin died in the original, but instead of Tyrion doing it personally, he sends Oberyn in to do it himself. And then, of course, whether or not in the North Jon is a part of basically the plot line, I do believe that the Night's Watch would learn of the massive army led by Mance Rayder gathering and marching on the Wall. I think either way they would find out, especially how in the books it was a battle at the Fist of the First Men that really showed Jeor Mormont the strength of the wildlings. And yeah, that's basically where I'm at so far with the story. I have another part coming up soon next week, and that will be detailing a lot of basically the events of the Wall and Jon and Stannis's role in it and how they will unite, as well as the coming of a certain Targaryen. Now, as to which one, I will not say. I'd rather that be a surprise. But this has been another What If episode from the Galaxy's Cantina. I'm your host, JD, signing off. See ya.
You a poopy pants, liar, liar, pants on fire, can't you let me do my dance? I said, you a poopy pants.